Thank you, Mr. President. This morning, colleagues, we've got Senate Resolution 563, which is an urging resolution, and I would like to highlight that that's all it does is it urges. But I want to talk for a few moments about what it's actually urging. It's urging the Secretary of State to comply with the requests of the United States Department of Justice to securely produce Georgia's voter registration list in compliance with Georgia's obligations under the National Voter Registration Act and the Help America Vote Act and the Civil Rights Act of 1960 and for other purposes. But the problem is what it's urging and saying in one part of this resolution is a juxtaposition, because the resolution is asking the Secretary of State to violate the law. Why? Because in OCGA 21-2-225 and OCGA 21-2-219, it restricts how voter data and information is to be shared. And I've sat in ethics committee meetings, they've been at 7 a.m., they've been at 5, they've been at 7 p.m. In fact, Mr. President, I got promoted on the committee and showed up to be the secretary. And I've been in these hearings and understanding that Eric and how we maintain lists, and one of the reasons we don't maintain our lists with the state of Florida is because they've got a full sunshine law, and that they transmit their voter information by not obscuring the Social Security numbers, but by displaying those Social Security numbers. However, Georgia law does not allow us to share information in that manner. And so since we can't share information, that's why we don't use the state of Florida to maintain our voter rolls and compare our data to theirs, because of how we protect folks' information. Now, when we talk about this resolution asking the Secretary of State to comply, well, we'd have to change state law in order for that compliance to occur. We'd have to allow for the unredacted version of folks' personal and sensitive information to be made public. And I don't know about you, but I've got information that's online, but I don't want my Social Security number to be online. I don't want my information in the wrong hands, because it's your personal information. Somebody can buy a house, they can take out a loan, they can do whatever if they got your Social Security number. But when we talk about how we access this information and how we should share it, then maybe this body should have prescribed the manner in which we would determine how we would do that. But then I also read in this resolution where we talked about the NVRA and the HAVA, and that it states the responsibilities. I want to be clear, colleagues. The NVRA and the HAVA do not give the Department of Justice an unlimited right to demand full voter files in any format at any time. And so now we say the Georgia Secretary of State has refused to comply with multiple requests for this information in full, and that is absolutely correct, because he is abiding by Georgia law. And so refusal to comply is not because somebody doesn't want to comply, it's because we have laws that say you can't do that. Now, when we talk about how folks break laws and how things go, and if they were so corrupt, well, we spent a lot of time investigating Fonnie Willis, but we didn't spend any time investigating Brad Raffensperger. We could have done a special subpoena the same way you did there if it was serious enough. We've had time to do this since 2020 if we were serious about it. But this is nothing more than smoke and mirrors to make a political point that does not need to be made, but it's about protecting folks' information. And I want to be clear, the federal government does not run election administrations, neither does the president. States run elections. And if we were serious about how elections would be run and the security, then we wouldn't have an unelected, unaccountable board making decisions about elections. We don't put people on the pension board that can't count. So why do we have people on the election board that don't know anything about elections and how to administer them, how the process should work? If anything, we should have registrars and county boards of elections to be on the board to go through the technical intricacies of our voting system if we were serious about it, not political appointees or hack jobs, but this unelected, unaccountable board. And if we were serious about it, we would put them on the ballot then. We would make a constitutional amendment to empower them, because right now, in that little small book on my desk, elections and the manner in which the information is tabulated and process comes to the Secretary of State, that's a constitutional officer. And I read in that same small rectangular book that said the Secretary of State was a constitutional officer, not under the jurisdiction of this body, but this urging resolution is just theater and performance at best. And so while we may want to urge the Secretary of State, so I ask you the question, if you vote yes on this, are you urging the Secretary of State to violate Georgia law? Because that is the question that I leave you with, and that's the juxtaposition of what is absolutely fundamentally right and what is fundamentally wrong. And Mr. President, as I yield the well, I'm concerned about the soul of America and the soul of our democracy, but I will say this, what a tangled web we weave when we seek to deceive. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the well.